Good morning. Welcome to today's community practice call. Today we're talking about what are the dynamics of masculine versus feminine leadership and relationship. And we're very happy to have you all here. I'm going to go through a little bit of logistics first and introduce you to our team, and also kind of trying to dodge the sun a little bit. So I'm in a kind of weird position here. So I am Jennifer Vega, and it is so great to be with you this morning. I will be your moderator today, and we are joined by David Henry, who's going to wave. He's our virtual workshop concierge, and Jenny Houston. She's waving right now, and Kendall Merritt, she's waving. They are both longtime students of John's and also in our teacher training program, and they're here today to help us out with anything we may need support with during the call. So before we get started, this call, when you signed up for it, you were agreeing to our media release, which means that we will unapologetically be posting this call on public forums. So after the call in a few days, the recording will go up on our YouTube channel, and it'll also be going up on our virtual workshop streaming site. So if you are on video, or if you ask John a question, you will be spotlit, you'll be seen. So them's the breaks. That's what's happening. And we do things respectfully. So please, if you have a question, please don't hesitate to come up. Okay. Also, we do ask that you all respect people's privacy and not post images of other people that are on this call that are not yourself or myself or John, just to respect their privacy and your own. We do have a chat that we can use today. We do ask that the chat be kept to words of encouragement, no coaching, no offering of unsolicited feedback or advice. And if you need some support, you can just type in the chat, "I need support," and one of us who are on the team will get back to you. We'll private message you. So if there's any like technical questions or anything like that, or hey, what did John just say? Then we'll be here to support you with that. John will not be looking at the chat. So if you have a question for John that you post in the chat, he ain't gonna see it. So if you do have a question for John, please get in the queue to raise your hand, and we're really gonna try to get to as many people as possible during the call today. So please understand that we are doing our best. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to John. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Kendall. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, David, for being here to help support. Okay, I'm just going to jump right in because there's a lot to cover today. And this is often a confusing topic, a charged topic, a misunderstood topic. And I'm going to hopefully shed as much light on this as possible. And also try to bring it into the practical application of how do we actually use this? What is it to be in a moment of leadership in a relationship or in a love space? And this can be also, it doesn't have to be romantic. This can be relational to your children, or relational to your friends or your community, or relational to your clients. So ultimately, what we're looking for, what makes great leadership, in my opinion. And I wrote about this a lot in the book. I teach a leadership program for men, and so I'm very committed to this topic of what it means to lead in relationship. And so ultimately, what we're looking for as humans is to cultivate both our feeling sensitivity, meaning our heart's capacity to feel ourselves, to feel the space, to feel other, to feel a moment, to feel the divine, to feel all of the ripple effects of what's happening in this moment. So you notice, if to use a classic example from David, data, if you notice, this moment has a lot happening in it, right? There's your heart beating, there's everything happening on this call. There's the energy flowing through the space you're in. There's this whole flow of, trillions of processes and activities happening in the body, your body, and the bodies around you, or even on this call. So all of the things happening in the moment, we can train ourselves to become more sensitive to. Sometimes this might include just amping up our five senses, right? Our five senses, and being able to really hear, touch, feel, taste, smell a moment or an experience. So on one side of the spectrum, we have our feeling sensitivity. That is the realm of the feminine, the ever-changing in every human, not in this is not gender specific at all. So that is the realm of the feminine. And then what we also have on the other side of the spectrum is this deep, unchanging field of awareness through which the experience of this moment is happening, is being felt, right? So this field of awareness that is infinite, spacious, you might call it consciousness, you might call it the void, people have different ways of describing this field of awareness. It's the part of you that's aware you're aware, right? It's witnessing, so to speak, the experience of the moment, but it's not necessarily the experience of the moment. That is the realm of the masculine. And that tends to be, the traits of that tend to be in more stillness, more spaciousness, more connected to consciousness rather than feeling. So we have these realms of, let's just to simplify it. And I'm trying to put words on things that are very difficult to put words on. So please, bear with me as I fall short, undoubtedly. But you have these realms of conscious awareness and feeling sensitivity. And as what we're really wanting as leaders in relationship, in the world, in our lives, is to be able to integrate those two aspects of our humanity in our capacity to both feel the unchanging aspect of reality of a moment and the ever-changing aspect and reality of a moment, and then decide what needs to happen next from here. So even though I'm talking about different aspects of what's it like to lead from your feminine, what's it like to lead from your masculine, ultimately we want to cultivate both. How do we cultivate both? By paying attention to both, by both doing things to open our feeling sensitivity in our body, breath, movement, sound, openness of this kind of meat body. There's all kinds of activities that develop a deeper sense of feeling awareness, but also becoming aware of the spaciousness that is infinite and unchanging. So if we fall too far into the feeling sensitivity and lose contact with that which is unchanging or closer to unchanging, we can get swept up in the feeling sensitivity. We can get swept up in our thoughts, right? Our thoughts are very much the feminine. Thoughts are constantly changing, constantly moving, right? We get swept up in thoughts. We can get swept up in feeling. And that limits our capacity to really ground into what might need to happen next. On the other side, if we just live in the void, and we're just in the bliss of feeling the ever expansive field of consciousness, we can get disembodied. We can become tantric work. When I say tantric, I'm talking about, tantric work is the aspect of bringing both of those things through the body. Tantric work is to accentuate and amplify both, right? So this is a lifelong process. In relationship, these things become very interesting, right? And we'll get into, I'll drop a couple things in to start, but we can get into what it, let me distinguish between what the feminine and masculine aspects are of the moment and of you, like the part of you that's feeling this experience right now, the part of you that's has sensation. Maybe you have some butterflies in your stomach, or you feel really good in your chair, you're feeling some tingles or whatever. That part of you is your feminine, and the part of you that is aware of the experience you're having in this moment is your masculine, simply put, right? So let's distinguish that from our responsibilities, our feminine versus masculine responsibilities in relationship. So ultimately, nobody's living all in feeling or all in awareness. Nobody's living that way. However, we tend to want to sort of live our lives closer to one side of the spectrum or the other, and we're naturally born either feeling more or being detached from feeling more, meaning we naturally have a more feminine sensitivity on the spectrum towards a more masculine sensitivity on the spectrum. And this gets we can go down the rabbit hole because you have many different bodies. You have a mental body, a physical body, an emotional body, a sexual body, a spiritual body, and those have feminine and masculine aspects to it as well. But I don't want to get too heady here, but I want to set the framework solidly. So what I believe the responsibilities of our masculine or feminine, and again, this is not gender specific. This is not gender specific. The partner who is leading from the feminine in a moment is the partner who is in feeling sensitivity more in that moment, right? And the partner that is leading from the masculine, more from the masculine in that moment, is in spaciousness, stillness, emptiness in that moment. And when we rest in spaciousness, information comes. When we rest in feeling, information comes. And so what it would mean to lead from the feminine responsibility in a relationship is to feel the aspects that feel how alive and how much sensitivity, energy, love is happening, openness, connection, right? To be able to feel where the relationship is in any given moment. If you're a feminine being, I'm sure you've had the experience of not being able to feel your masculine partner sometimes, right? And the more masculine they are, the more kind of sometimes hard it is to feel them, right? And so the feminine responsibility will be to have like these alarm bells go off of like, not enough love, not enough feeling, not enough sensitivity, not enough, it'll feel like there's something lacking, right? And the masculine partner in a moment will be feeling the spaciousness, the width, the depth of a moment, of a relational moment, and be called to lead it into more depth, more spaciousness. And so these aspects are constantly floating back and forth within us every day, all the time, right? And so the way that I liked it, and again, this is a gross oversimplification, but we need some kind of framework to just be able to kind of identify things here. If you are feeling a lack of sensitivity, a lack of juice, a lack of love in a moment, the feminine responsibility is to call that out. If you're feeling a lack of depth, a lack of spaciousness, a lack of peace or stillness in a dynamic, then your masculine responsibility is to call that out. Now, last thing I'll say before I start taking questions is that, again, ultimately, we want to be moving from both. We want to be guiding each other, co-leading, co-creating from both. This is not something where the masculine should lead and or the feminine should. This is like we should be co-creating. However, if we want our relationship to be in a state of polarity, right? So if you think about it, if we're both leading from kind of this, neutral center of the spectrum place where we're both sort of leading from, kind of a spacious sensitivity, but we're very kind of calibrated and equal, then it tends to neutralize the charge of energy in a relationship. If one partner is really more in the feeling spectrum and the other partner is more in the depth spectrum, a natural sort of polarity, a natural arc of electricity, a natural juice will start to develop, right? And so we want to just start to become aware of where we are in the flow of relating, right? And what is needed. So one partner could be, this is just the silly example, but I think it speaks. The feminine responsibility is to keep the party going, whatever the party is. The party could be sex, the party could be, right? So the feminine is going to want to keep the party going. The masculine responsibility is to deepen the party. And so within that very kind of silly example, you can start to really feel where you are on that spectrum naturally, where you might need to cultivate more capacity, either along the more masculine side of the spectrum, more feminine side of the spectrum, and then how to use that. And we'll get into some, I'm sure, as we go into questions, because again, this is a very nuanced topic and it can be a little heady and a little complicated, but I think it's important to get into very practical application of this. And I think once we do that, these concepts will start to make more sense. So I'll shut up. I can see there's already some hands coming up, so we'll get into this. I will try. I always try to get, to answer questions thoroughly, but I'll try to get through as many as I can, and then hopefully we can end with a practice. So Jen, I'll let you run the board, and off we go.
So if you do have a question for John, you can raise your virtual hand under reactions at the bottom of the screen. And we do ask that you are on video and that you get to the core of the question. So Jessica, chomping at the bit, let's get in.
Minimum fluff. Yeah, let's just go for it. Yeah.
Hi there. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, great.
Thank you for your work. So my question is, I've been working in practice. My question, bottom line, comes to the nervous system safety when it comes to monogamy versus polyamory. When you're in this space of, I'm a monogamy person, but I have a few practice partners, and I am really comfortable with vulnerability, sharing. We spend a lot of time in Tantra, eye gaze, in each other's breath, in each other's space. It's beautiful. I feel like I've evolved a lot in that space for safety, but at the core of it, I'm kind of curious about your take on that for nervous system safety in that space.
On polyamory for nervous system?
Well, you know what, and I'm just thinking about
having multiple
practice partners. So, I mean, I'm angling my way toward, I'm in practice right now and working my way towards a partnership, not currently with a partner, but when it comes down to it, I feel incredibly safe with, for example, one partner. And I just don't know about the nervous system safety that I'm not seeing for myself. I think that's like digging down deep. I feel really comfortable in his presence, out of his presence. I've got my bratty shit going on at times, so I've got all of those aspects and I don't mind. I'm good at looking at myself and having a hard lens. I do the hard work. I'm in the mud a lot. So I guess my question is on your take on, can this practice be can you fully immerse yourself in this practice in attaining that self-love space and that love for each other in a non-monogamous space?
Yeah, depends. I mean, it depends on your heart's deep desire, right? And so the more feminine any human is, and I fall into this category because I have a lot of feminine in me, the deeper that an experience goes emotionally and sexually, the less um, other will be wanted, right? But this is not true for all women or all feminine beings. But the more feminine we are, the more deep juice we're going to want. And so this is really a question I would turn back onto you. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, discovery right now, discovery. So I'm pretty comfortable in that space.
Okay.
So
Well, then I think if that's what you're wanting above all else, then you're in a space of exploration. It sounds like it's a healthy space. Not that you need my permission, but I don't see any problem with it.
yeah.
Now, at some point, if there's a real depth that's achieved and you start to long for deeper commitment from this practice partner, just be aware of like, okay, well, that is my that's my feminine heart. That's my wild feminine heart. The wild feminine heart wants to be seen, felt, recognized, you know, um, and just be aware that that might come up. But I think just to broaden this a little bit, right? As long as as long as it feels good, let's just make it super simple. As long as you're at the end of a practice, the next day, the day after, you're feeling good. You're feeling love. You're feeling in the flow of love. You're not feeling attached or graspy to your partner. And you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And when you said bratty, I'm not sure what that means, but if you can maintain that and you're not somehow diminishing your truth to be claimed, if that is a truth for you, it might not be. As long as you're not diminishing that, then I don't see any problem. What I've seen in polyamory a lot is especially highly feminine beings dampen their heart's truth in order to deepen in spiritual practice.
Hmm.
So they're saying like, okay, I'm going to squash my feminine yearning a little bit in order to practice the masculine values of freedom and spaciousness, and you know what I mean? And sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's not. I think it really depends on how. Let me just to tie it to my topic today. So you say you're very self-reflective. You say you do the deep work. You say you go into the mud. That's an aspect of your own masculine leadership.
Hmm.
So the part of us that is self-reflective, that is taking our awareness and putting it on our emotional body, our heart's truth, putting it on our feminine, let's say, that's your masculine lead. That's you leading yourself into deep reflection. That's your masculine leadership. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
also,
yeah.
the other half of me that I've worked so hard on the past few years is really stripping off all the armor and lying bare on the rocks and just bursting into tears and feeling every feel. And so
Yeah,
my feminine is pretty, I love
yeah,
it. I love it. It's addictive without a
yeah,
doubt.
yeah. And that's
Yeah.
and your expression of the heart's truth in the moment is your feminine leadership in that moment, right? So whoever is revealing, expressing the deepest heart's truth in the moment is basically juicing the moment up with heart energy, with
Mm.
sensation, with sensitivity, right? Whoever's deepening that, right? And so let's say you're in a moment just because I want to really put some practical application on what I'm talking about. So if you're in that moment of bursting into tears, revealing your vulnerability, showing it to your partner in that moment, that's you leading the moment from a very deep feminine place. Okay. It doesn't have to be a woman, could be a man too. If your partner is helping you go deeper into that, for example, saying yes, or like somehow like amplifying and encouraging and acknowledging your deep expression. That's so beautiful. Your tears are so beautiful. You're like, show me more. Like, that's masculine leadership in that moment. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Like,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. And that's exactly it. In every practice, that's where we seem to get. So that's great.
No wonder
Thank
it's
you.
satisfying, right? Because you're both that's co-leading relational moments into deep, full expression. It doesn't get much better than that. If you don't need commitment and you're just happy with those practices, then fuck yeah, why not?
Yeah. Okay. I think I've got it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay.
Yeah, let me just put a little bow on that. One of the great masculine gifts in relationship, and again, not gender specific, I'm just going to keep saying that. One of the great masculine gifts in relationship is to amplify the sensation, to be able to not just hold space for it, right, and be witness to it, right, to hold space. Many people probably talk about that. It's like kind of from, just to rest in stillness and hold space for it. That's great. That's better than being reactive to it. But there's another level, which is to actually meet it and like, it's probably not the right word to use, but to kind of fuck it, to amplify it, to celebrate it, to encourage it, right? And if you're doing that with your feminine partner, you are actually leading him or her into deeper expression, and that is, in my opinion, the most beautiful kind of masculine leadership, which is to be a stand for the full expression of love in the moment and directing it in the way that I just kind of described. Okay. Who's next?
Okay. Angel.
Hi. I have
Hello.
to my question.
That's a great name, Angel Drake. It's like a rock star name. Okay. Yeah.
That's how I need that name. The first part of my question is, I know that feeling when the alarm bells go off and there needs to be more love. Could you give some examples of when there needs to be more depth? That's the first part of my question. Like, what does that look like? Help understand more of that. And the second part to my question, which I think you kind of started to touch on it at the end there anyway, but I'd love to hear more, is how do you make sure that when you are each taking a stand for love and consciousness, that those are collaborative and, like you said, amplifying one another instead of like trying to pull each other over to the side of love or consciousness?
Yeah. Well, the goal is conscious love. Right. If we're going to place a goal on, I mean, that's the goal for me. I don't know. And I'm imagining many of you here, right? You would be here if you weren't like looking to that North Star of the full expression of conscious love. Right? So let me start with the first one, which is, let's say the alarm bells go off on there's not enough love. Right. So a common response to those alarm bells will be for whoever's feeling that, whoever's in the feminine in that moment, to start to point out how there's not enough love in the moment. You're too busy, or you're not seeing me, or you're not paying attention to me, or you're not, right? So in a way, you're certainly, speaking the truth of what you're feeling, like, oh, there's not enough love in this moment. I'm not feeling the deep flow of love in this moment. Or sometimes you might sit down and we need to have a talk. You know, we're not in enough flow of love. You know, we're not having enough sex. There's not enough juice. There's not enough, right? Right. Okay. So those are ways that oftentimes that alarm bell will get expressed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that one I know pretty well. It's the other.
Yes. I'm sure it'd be familiar. Okay. So in that moment, your masculine partner's leadership will be to take you deeper into the feelings underneath the because the words that you're using, I don't want to say complain, but what you're pointing out, right? What you're calling out using words is the surface level of, right? So if he is a good leader in that moment, he'll do a couple things. He'll reflect on where you're right. Like he'll use his awareness to, just like I was talking about with this other woman, he'll go like, oh, you're right, baby. There's not enough love. Both been too busy. We've been too separate. We've been too whatever. And he'll acknowledge using his awareness the truth of what you're saying. Another thing he could do if he wants to go even deeper is he'll just start to feel, maybe he puts his hand on your heart and he just says like, let me hear it. Like, just give it to me. Right. And he'll actually help you go deeper into that moment of expressing what's beneath the words, like what's beneath it all. So in that, he's taking you deeper. And of course, you could do the same for him, right? He's taking you beyond just the alarm bells going off, because most of the time, you're right. You're right, right? Whoever's in the feminine is feeling the lack of love. Most of the time, they're right. The problem starts to become how we express those alarm bells. And so if you have because we tend to express that from pattern and wound normally. So if you have a good masculine partner, or, again, this can go back and forth, then they're feeling beneath the words and into what's really going on in your heart. And they're helping you get there. They're encouraging you, like, okay, baby, I hear you. You're right. But let me hear it. Like, I feel it. Like, where is it? Here in your belly? Like, let me get, like, or pound up, like, I'll say, pound on my chest. He'll guide you in that moment to the place of full expression of the truth of that. Can you imagine that in that moment, what could be sort of the typical complain and defend experience could then become a much deeper expression of love's truth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
Yeah. So it certainly required you to point out what was missing. And then it also required him to not settle for surface level expression.
Mm-hmm.
That's leading each other back into this deep love flow space.
Beautiful.
Does that make sense to you, brother? I just want to make sure it's
yeah. That's a really good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good. You may have to give me your second question again. I got
Started.
riled up.
It was just how do you ensure that if one of you tends to hold more consciousness and one of you tends to hold more love, how do you make sure that's a collaborative dance, which you were kind of already touching on, versus trying to pull you to
Yeah. So just to speak to that, right? So if you're having that, I'm just going to call it a complaint because oftentimes that's how it occurs to us, to our partners. If you're having that complaint of not enough love, and he's like, okay, baby, you're right. Like, you're right. We're something's off, right? But let me feel it. Show. So your responsibility will be to be the feeling one, right? To really be the expression of the pain of not enough love, right? And his responsibility will be to help you fully get there to express it, right? You're gifting him with the truth of your heart, unfiltered, raw, unbound. He's gifting you with this sort of helping to, guide that wild flow of expression into its deepest source. And if you say, no, fuck you, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, right? That's often that's where that beautiful possibility gets short-circuited.
Mhm. Yeah, I can fully
That's yeah.
from like feeling the pain and moving straight to pattern, which for me is articulation and using my seer and like staying here versus being here.
Not just you. This is so endemic of you know just modern relationship. Yeah, we think too fucking much. We think too much.
Like
We don't
what
feel enough.
takeaway, and it's like, wow, this is really applicable. Is my role is to stay in the hurt and the feeling, and yours is to not back away from the intensity and say more. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be long. It could be a minute of just really deep expression, and then maybe a beautiful kiss and go on with your day.
Right.
Or maybe it leads to something else. But the point is that you are getting to that sweet spot, that sweet flow spot of love and depth that I think you probably both want.
Amazing.
Yeah. And just to put one more piece on this for everybody else listening is like, leadership has so much to do with taking us out of pattern. Right. And so to lead your partner well in relationship is to lovingly and compassionately guide them out of pattern. Could like his pattern might be to just kind of but you're doing it right. Like, but so if he's like taking care of business or single-minded focus or doing what masculine beings do, and you're like, not enough love, like or he's the classic one is he's in a complaint about all the burden of building a business or doing right. That's a classic masculine pattern, right? yeah. I get it, man. No judgment here, man. I've been there. And you're like trying to remind him, like, fuck that, like, right? You're helping him out of that pattern. You're leading him out of that pattern from your deep expression, from your alarm bell of but love. Doesn't mean he has to like give up the whole day, but you're helping him remember that what really matters, what really is important, is that there is a deep flow of love that's honored and respected and acknowledged, as often as possible. In a busy life. All right. Thank you for the question, guys.
Okay, Simon.
Simon, coming to us from the office. I love it.
Can you hear me right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is about navigating my attraction towards the feminine within a monogamous relationship. Both trying to hold.
You mean to your partner or to other women outside of
that's
all
the thing.
of them?
It's like towards all the feminine in a way that can sustain both like integrity with my commitment and integrity with her and with her heart, and empowerment at the same time, not castrating myself and being empowered so that I can bring to the relationship the aliveness and energy that I feed off from
I want to dig a little deeper. So you're in a monogamous relationship?
Yes, sir.
You have a partner,
yes, sir.
right? There's all this other, it's like you walk into the beautiful field of flowers and there's one flower that's really, really beautiful, right? You pick that flower. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to notice all the other flowers, right? Or enjoy all the other flowers. You probably don't pick them though, right? I mean, unless so think of it this way. This is a great. So I want to get to the meat of your question, which is how do I see all those flowers, enjoy, honor, like really just, be enlivened by those, and then bring it back into my relationship. Am I getting that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So,
Sorry, and I wanna just like one thing. At this particular moment in our relationship, we are going through a period of exacerbated jealousy on her part. So that's what I mean also, like with integrity, and at the same time taking care of her heart.
yeah.
And knowing that
Okay.
some things are triggers for her. So yeah, that.
So let's say she's the alarm bell, right?
Yeah.
Right. So she's the alarm bell. So your masculine will be to first, like I said earlier, reflect. So how she might be doing it by being overly jealous, by being possessive, by looking through your phone, by whatever it is, again, try to, not that any of that's appropriate, but just try to get to like alarm bell. She's feeling something, right? So your masculine leadership is going to say, okay, where is she right? You're going to turn your awareness. Where have I been leaky? Where have I been leaky? Where have I been out of integrity? Where have I kind of allowed attraction? Where have I allowed intrigue? That's a good one. Like, where have I allowed intrigue to happen with other women, right? Intrigue is like, ooh, there's like a connection, but we're not going to act on it because I'm in a relationship and you're in a relationship. I'm not saying you did any of this, but I'm just, right? So you reflect, where is she right? Where have I been leaky? Where have I drifted and started to fantasize about other women? So that would be the first step of you returning to integrity by trusting her alarm bell is feeling or seeing something. That would be the first step I would offer. You don't have to go into that here, but I'll just give you that as a little piece of homework. The second piece is, and this is totally different. This gets to your question, which is, let's say you're at a party. Let's say you're at a party with her, right? And you're with her and you're talking with her, and then you go off and you go to the bar, you get a drink, and there's all these like amazing, beautiful women around, okay? You can breathe all of that feminine energy into your body without looking at one of them. In fact, you could stay at the bar. Let's say you go to the bar and you get a drink and you have a sip and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna just take in, like I'm standing in the middle of a field of flowers, of beautiful smelling flowers. And then as you exhale, you let all the energy of Shakti, right? Of Shakti, like enter your body. And then you exhale out blessings to all of them. May they find the love that they want. May they have incredible lives. And you do that for a couple, 3 minutes to just honor Shakti, not one in particular, but just the fucking on a dance floor, in a club. I mean, at a concert, like you can do this anytime. And then you exhale out blessings. I guarantee you, after a minute or two, you will start to feel very full. Very full. And then you take that back to your partner and you ravish her with it in some form or fashion, right? And it's basically what you're doing is you're using your own masculine structure with a practice and with intention and with awareness to take this massive thing that we call desire, and you're honing it in a way to deliver it back to your partner. You feel what I'm saying? It's a little bit of an advanced practice, but I tell you, I've taken men. I used to take men where we would walk up and down the promenade in Santa Monica, and I'm like, you see a beautiful woman, do not look at her, just feel her and breathe. The classic. This is something David taught me many, 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 many years ago. And you just breathe her down the front, hold that energy, and then exhale out blessings to her. And I guarantee, like we did this, you go up and down the block a couple of times, and there was an absolute sense of feeling full and alive, downright high, on just acknowledging the beauty without any violation of space.
Love that.
So I would start with that, man, and I would just start with that, and you know, there may be more things to. One last piece I'll leave you with is that anytime, and this is true for any partner, sometimes it's good to create a container, and this is an example of good masculine leadership, taking something deeper, right? Sometimes it's good to create a container and just be really clear, like what I would want more of in order to be with you for the rest of my life is what I would want more of, and where you both have a really honest conversation of like what she would need to trust you. The sentence stems are what I would need to trust you with my heart and my life forever. And then you listen to her, and what I would need to want to, you know, you can, let's say, you know, love and care for you forever would be. And you guys have that really honest conversation and really hear each other, and be okay with what the other partner is saying. And that may help communicate what you might need, because maybe there's something in your sex that you're feeling is missing. You know, sometimes it's just we get depolarized because we're living together, and there's just, or we're together all the time, and there's too much like magnets rubbing together, so there's depolarization. Sometimes there's a key nutrient missing in sex, in our relationships, and so your leadership in that moment is to help lovingly uncover that.
One last question. Can you give me a framework about what constitutes a leak? I know her alarm, of course, so like her alarm, but is there something that I can work with before I get to her alarm, so I'm not like constantly pushing the buttons?
Yeah. Anytime you're looking into a woman's eyes for longer than 3 seconds, you're leaking.
Okay.
Pretty much, right? Yeah. So seeing, and I'm saying you personally, not all men, but you personally at this point in your life, like this is just where you're at, man. You're just like, I want to smell all the flowers, you know, and I have no judgment for that at all. And I love this person and I want to take care of her, right? That's a common dichotomy that a lot of men face. So for you, I would just say, look, be really aware of where you hook or create intrigue. So you meet somebody, let's say you're at the bar, right? So this would be the opposite of what I gave you. Like you're at the bar, there's a woman next to you, you look at her, she looks at you, you're like, oh, right? And you linger there for a few moments, right? In a way, you've hooked her and she's kind of hooked you. And you've done something that so here's a great rule of thumb. If your partner was watching you, would she feel honored? That's the great way to talk about leak. If your partner was reading the text that you were sending to whoever DM'd you on would she feel honored? Right? If your partner does not, if your partner cannot see you and feel honored and cherished, both men and women, right? And this goes for all of us. You're probably leaking.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good luck, man. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Right? When we're talking in our partnerships. Same goes for talking shit about your partners. That's also, right? If you're talking to your friends and you're talking shit and your partner was there listening to you, would they feel honored? We cannot underestimate the importance of honor. Yeah. Now, within that, of course, you might have shit to work through in your relationship, but you guys know when you cross the line between, trying to work something out that's happening in your relationship and then talking shit. And not that any of you do that. Not that any of you do that, right? You guys are long past that. Okay, who's next?
That was funny, John. Aniko. Oop, I lost John. Sorry. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Here, I'm here. Yep.
I don't know if any of these practices will apply to this, but I'm going through a recent breakup, kind of like a blindsided heartbreak, where I thought
Sorry.
this is it. It's okay.
Mm. Mm.
And typically in the past, I don't really get over it until I fall in love again. And I don't want to do that again. I really want to just, like, I have tools. I've come a long way. So, and it's those like looping thoughts, and I'm trying to like just stop them and like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and come present, and whatever it is, I'm like yoga, meditation. I'm trying to not do what I've done in the past, but I'm wondering if you have.
Can I just jump in right there? Okay, so your masculine is like, let's get through this. The masculine in all of us wants something to end, especially an uncomfortable sensation, right? So the tools that I see a lot of women use is to like, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to witness my thoughts, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to do these things because I want this uncomfortable, this torturous fucking sensation to end, right? And so that would be an example of poor masculine leadership. That would be an example of your, let's call it not super healthy masculine, but your patterned masculine. Let's get through it. Let's get over it. Da 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 da. Let's find somebody else, right? Your patterned masculine trying to lead something out by denying it, suppressing it, right? So your healthy masculine will create a container for your full expression. And we have, Jen maybe can put some of these practices up in the chat, but we have tons of grief and movement and full expression practices in the virtual workshop, and you just push play. So your healthy masculine will say, okay, you got 30 minutes this morning. You're gonna create a container. You're gonna light some candles. You're gonna get on the sheepskin. You're gonna push play, and you're just gonna like go into the fucking muck of how abandoned, dropped, blindsided I feel. And it probably wasn't this guy, right? I mean, just this guy. I mean, this probably goes way back to early times in your life, I would imagine. It could even go back to your mother, your father. It could be epigenetic. So your healthy masculine will create space for you to go into full expression. Full expression. That makes sense? Do you feel the difference between those two?
Yes. And typically, like, I feel a lot, and I don't shy away from feeling. I don't mind the pain. It's just like the suffering. It's like the looping. It's the stories, right? And what I'm afraid of is like creating. What I'm afraid of is creating like these neural pathways that like continue to facilitate that.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Let me address it. Let me address it. It's a great point. So I was going to get to the third part, right? So the healthy masculine lets you go into the feeling, right? Your sacred masculine will literally be consciousness holding you through the sensation. So let's say you push play and you go on this, you just kind of do, or you do your own 10-minute practice, put on some songs, move, grieve, whatever it is. The practice is to be in the sensation with no thought. With no thought, pure sensation, pure sensation, pure sensation. And I know you say you feel a lot, but feeling a lot and moving the grief are two different things. Right? Really focusing on honoring your own truth. Your truth is, as I can see it, is you're fucking grieving. And probably not just this relationship, probably, years of not being met in the way that you want to be met. And the only way, so you don't create what the neural pathways you create when you're fully expressing without thought are great neural pathways. They're the neural pathways of full expression, which is going to be full sexual energy, which is going to be full love devotion, which is going to be, full, like all the things that I can tell you a truly masculine human really values. So you are creating new neural pathways, but the new neural pathways of full expression, thoughtlessly, no thought, no story. So this is the thing, the deeper you go into sensation, the less thought will impede. So if you could feel, like in this moment, can you feel that there is sort of this weight of consciousness wrapping you? Can you feel consciousness itself just in this moment? You're having these sensations, you're having this experience, you're having this conversation. There's something still and deep that's in you and around you. Can you feel it at all? Don't think about it, feel it. It's like a cloak of stillness, of emptiness, of space, of infiniteness. Yeah, okay, good. That's your masculine essence, right? That is, the universe is 90% empty fucking space. So I can feel the part of you that really wants to get through this. And I just want to tell you, fuck that. Take as long as you need to grieve. Without story. The stories are bullshit. The feelings are real. The stories are bullshit. The feelings are real.
And so what about like when you're going through your day and you find these stories come up, or like
go to yeah, that's a great question. And for a while it's going to be this way. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, it's going to be this way, right? So you let's say you do your practice in the morning and you cry your eyes out, and then you start to feel some relief and some spaciousness, and 2 hours later you're like, fuck that, and the story starts to come. Go back into the feeling and take 30 seconds and do the same thing. So the practice is the deepest form. And I had to do this after my daughter died. Many of you know my daughter died 5 years ago. And it was 6 months of every morning, this practice, to go into the grief and to be with, like, just feel the grief and move it, feel it, move it, feel it, move it, breathe. While I was feeling that infinite space that was holding all of it. That is the purest form of practice, to feel consciousness, infinite consciousness, and space holding full expression and truth and feeling. And it's going to take some time, my love. It's going to take some time. It just will, but the good news is, if we can just reframe it, you're getting to move. You have the tools and the commitment and the grit, I can tell, to move through this in a way that will change your entire lineage. In a way, because a lot of what we've inherited from our parents and our ancestors is what we're dealing with today. So if you have a child, they will not have to carry this, because you're making a stand to go into it like a warrior and face it and feel it. And in 12-step work, there's this acronym for fear, fuck everything and run, or face everything and recover. And I find that that's a really nice thing to look at, So you're being asked to face this and not go into another relationship and not thought loop. And you will thought loop for a while. And of course you could use meditation, but I would use it after you move the energy below first. So let's say you do a 30-minute movement practice, and then you take 10 minutes and you just witness, 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 witness. And hopefully I'll see you in a few months and you'll feel more free. One other suggestion. My dear friend Kendra Kunoff offers this no man diet. And it's a really beautiful course with a lot of women who have like hit this inflection point of like, fuck, my relationships aren't working. I'm running into the same thing again and again. Let me take a break. And so finding a container, and I do this with men all the time in EMLT, we have a cohort that's going through a feminine cleanse, to go through a bit of a cleanse, 3 months, 6 months, just give up the idea of relationship completely.
Yeah, I don't even want one. It's more this fear of like not getting over something until
I know. And my partner's great at honoring, like going into the fucking muck of what's true, no matter how dark and funky it is. So if part of what's true is the fear of I'm never going to get over him, make that part of your practice. Like go into that fear, like feel it. Don't think about it. Feel it. Feel that fear. And that is you. Again, this is, in the realms of leadership, the part of you that is going to express that fear through every cell in your body is your beautiful feminine leading herself. The part of you that's going to create a container for it, hold it in consciousness, that's your masculine, right? Honoring and guiding and directing your feminine. So this is a great example of like using all aspects of your humanity to lead yourself through this. And again, give yourself 90 days to be a fucking crazy, obsessed, thought looping, heartbroken, hot fucking mess. Like I'm going to be a hot mess for the next 90 days. I'm going to call you guys, you tell all your friends, I'm going to call you 5 times a day, thought looping, and you're just going to have to remind me to and just set yourself up to win. Thank you for bringing your heartbreak and best of luck to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Ishka.
I'm loving these names today, man. You guys are bringing some really cool names. Ishka.
Hello, I'm Bonnie, and this is Ishka.
Hello, Bonnie. Hello, Ishka. Yeah.
My question is around how to navigate and some tools for those sticky moments where, for example, either no one is taking the lead and the feminine's not wanting the feel and the masculine's not wanting to go deeper, and it's just a standstill of indecision and confusion and numbness. And then the second kind of sticky moment is where we do have a fluidity.
Can I just go with the first one first? Yeah. Because I'll forget it. So just imagine you're on a beautiful hike. You're in the middle of this incredible forest, right? Let's call this forest the forest of love.
So yes.
You're in love's forest, right? And you're hiking. You go take this beautiful hike, and you're on your way to the most beautiful waterfall, and you get lost, or you go off trail, and you guys just stand there looking at each other, going, "Who's going to lead? Who wants to?" Right?
Yeah.
You could stay lost in that forest as long as you want, or one of you could step the fuck up and go, I'm going to lead. I always prefer, I always think it feels better in a polarized relationship. This is if the masculine steps in and goes like, okay, I'm going to do my best to get us here. Right. But if you want to stay in that stubborn space of like, I'm not going to show you how I feel, and I'm not going to lead us anywhere, and you're both in that, kind of trauma bonded, wounded place of, right. So Did you ask me for? So let's just point that out. Like you guys are choosing to stay lost in the forest of love, you know, half a mile from the waterfall, right? So stop that. That's just silly. And
can I just jump in there? Why does that bring on? I totally get what you're saying. I can feel it. I can remember it, and it's like, why does that bring on? Why does it bring on the trauma or the? It does. It brings on history.
it doesn't. Well, no. It both stems from history. It's rooted in history, and then it validates the history. It's basically our this is, couples therapy 101 at this point, right? Our childhood wounds, our childhood traumas get recreated in our relationships. So we both, in a moment of fear or threat, let's call it threat, where our partner goes from being ally to adversary, we get triggered into what's called, a fight or flight state, fight, flight, freeze. Seems like you guys might go into some freeze. Maybe Bonnie does, and you go into fight, or we tend to have a similar response when the threat happens. That threat is the pattern. How we respond to that threat is her pattern. So your pattern hers will be to not feel and express. Yours will be to probably shut down in your own way. And there you go. And then you get to think about how they are doing the thing to you, right? And and then you validate the story from childhood. They always leave. They don't love me. They don't respect me. They never see me or feel me, or, I'm never chosen. I mean, whatever the fucking story is, we find a way to validate it in our relationships, as long as we're in the unconscious patterning. So everything I'm talking about today is to try to take us out of those unconscious patterned moments and into some new, more healing, more expressive possibility. So let me start with Bonnie, since she asked the question, right? So the feminine responsibility in that moment, lost in the forest, right, is going to be to express the deepest feeling that you can express. Like fear. Like, let's say you, like, all of a sudden you're in the forest and you're afraid, right? And so you start crying tears of fear. Like, I'm afraid. What if we're lost? What if we never get back? What about that? You just the deepest expression, right? That's not blamey. If you want to get into pattern, blame. If you want to accentuate your pattern, blame. So your responsibility would be to as the feminine partner in this, you consider yourself more the feminine partner in the relationship. Okay. Yeah. So your responsibility then will be to feel and express everything that you're feeling without blame. And then his responsibility will be to witness and love and help hold and amplify that until it's done. Okay. Then feel into the next right move from stillness, from a sense of still, oftentimes what I'll do myself, or I'll try to teach men to do, is to do nothing except feel for a period of time. Could be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, could be a few breaths. Just feel that infinite space of nothingness and feel everything that's happening, and try not to have any thought. Just be present in the moment, feeling the field of experience or the field of your relationship until something clearly comes that is a good next move. And so you might say, let's try this. She expresses, she, reveals all the emotion, and then you might just say, hey, I'm just going to just feel for a moment. And you take a few breaths, and you're like, something will come to you out of that stillness. And you're like, okay, let's try this. Let's try to praise each other for 3 minutes, or let's try to, let's have sex. let's just hold each other. Let's, dance. Let's each take 3 minutes to hear the other's experience without interrupting. Let's, you know what I mean? And so stuff will come from the non-patterned chosen consciousness versus the unconscious patterned response. But we have to have enough bandwidth to go like, all right, and to just make it super simple, I'm going to feel and move. I'm going to ground and breathe and get still until some kind of co-created idea comes to take you back into love.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think we do, naturally do this as well, but it's great to have awareness in those sticky moments just to remember.
Well, those moments are where everything happens. I mean, you could either have a week of being pissed at each other, or you could have a week of love that gets resolved in 10 minutes, right? We waste so much fucking time responding to our patterns and our partner's patterns. And so that's why I think this is such important work. Ishka, you were going to ask something.
What I identified, I see happening is, which you could say maybe an unhealthy masculine is from the fear response or something going wrong in the dynamic in the field, I will then try and fix it by let's go there, but I miss what you're saying is lean into your partner, my Bonnie.
Yeah.
And actually that is priority. Like when we're talking about working together, it's what is happening with us is the priority, because then what is happening with us is what is out there. And if I just go to try and fix out there, nothing's going to happen.
I like that. You're right. So, in fact, it's going to get worse. Right? Something will happen. It'll get fucking worse.
It'll get worse.
Yeah. So it's a great point, man, because to the feminine, it being fixed is being fully expressed. That's what fixing it means from her perspective. Like, I'm being fully felt and seen. That's being fixed in the feminine, right? To the masculine, it being over or resolved is being fixed. And neither is wrong. We're both right. But the order, like you said, man, you nailed it perfectly. Like you said, the order is off for a lot of us in the masculine. We're like, okay, she's upset. Let me just help her get through this so that we can go to dinner or get to the waterfall or whatever it is, right? Like, okay, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? Versus like, oh, there's like something deep coming through right now, like a deep fear or a deep pain or something. Like, let me help her like get into it, and let's increase the juice of the moment before the direction of the moment. You get the difference. Like, you could go to the waterfall in silence, pissed at each other, or you could go to the waterfall like holding hands and like fully in love. Which would you rather do? And most men, especially I know, are opt to do what you do, man, which is like, let's just fix it. So I think that to really prioritize, and again, this is a personal choice. Like, there's a lot of men who are like, I don't want to put this much fucking work into my love. I don't want to put this much work into my relationship. And you probably shouldn't be in relationship, but if you care about the juice of the relationship, if that's important, if the juice, the electricity of the relationship is a nourishing, life-giving, flow that you want to be a part of, then this is the work that's required. And I think you kind of nailed it. Like, let her, she's trying to bring the juice, even if it sounds like a complaint, it's juice under there. So like, help her bring the juice, and then you can help direct it. And that is a beautifully, and again, it doesn't have to be gender specific. It's just like, she's obviously the more feminine, you're obviously the more masculine. So if she's bringing the juice and you let her bring all the juice, and then you're like, oh, baby, let's like direct it into, like, her juice will actually inspire a better decision from you. This is like one of the key little magic fucking tricks. Is if she's tight and you're tight, the decisions you make from the tightness will be patterned decisions. If she's open and juicy and you're like with her and really feeling her, can you imagine that you're going to make better decisions from that open, juiced up place?
Okay.
Yeah.
And it just sparked something in me of I'm training my masculine, just say, for example, and I'm more predominant in my masculine. If I'm invoking her feminine and that juiciness and that aliveness, and I haven't, like, what about my nervous system then to be able to jump into that and really allow for that fucking harder? I'm like used to the stillness, and the stillness can but also does it help for the male to also be able, or the more masculine role, or the one in the masculine role, to how do you
you got to strengthen your nervous system. That's a great point, man. So yes, I mean, I wrote a whole book on this. I do programs like this. This is a most men, I'm going to say men, do not have strong enough nervous systems to truly hold the entirety of feminine energy available to them.
Yes.
Most men do not, right? Because they don't breathe deep enough, because their bodies are too tight, because they're too reactive, because their nervous systems are tweaked or distracted, or they're numbed out. And so that takes, weeks, at best months, years of retraining our bodies to be able to hold all of the juice. So I would give to you, my friend, again, on the virtual workshop, you can get a free 7-day trial, or, and just go do a bunch of practices. There's a bunch of breath practices. There's a bunch of grounding practices. There's a bunch of stuff for men meant to train your nervous system to be able to hold more juice, because, she's got a lot of energy. And you're gonna want, and this, of course, I'm not even gonna go into what this possibility this brings up sexually, right? So to retrain our bodies to hold her juice gives her permission to bring her juice everywhere, right? And I've just seen this time and time again. And I imagine you want as much juice in that realm as she's willing to give you. I'm just saying, right? So yeah. So yeah, there's like, but what we forget is how
I'm sensing that you know something I might not know.
Well, but we forget that those two realms, like the realm of emotional expression and the realm of sexual expression, are intimately linked in the feminine nervous system and body. And so the more she feels free to fully express emotionally, the more those pipes open up, and it's the same pipes. It's just emotional energy versus sexual energy, and then it will combine, and it will just be a whole different, emotionally full, sexually full. It's highly correlated, both those two things. And also in your capacity to hold more juice, to feel more, to all that stuff will absolutely amplify, your capacity sexually. That's the, ancient secret of, of this work, is like, it really does. Everything we do to enhance our capacity in the sexual realm enhances our capacity in the emotional realm, right? Sensational realm, right? So yeah, man, I come to a workshop sometime. We'll take you guys through a bunch of practices that work with all this stuff, and it'll be good.
Awesome.
Thanks,
All
John.
right. Thank you guys. Yeah, thanks for the question. All right, we're gonna have time for one more. and unfortunately no practice, but I want to give you, before I take this last question, I'm talking a lot about practices, so it's always I always prefer to be able to work through the realm of the intellectual and into the realm of the experiential. So we've got a ton of practices on the virtual workshop. It's cheap. It's $40 a month, and you could just go on for $7 or for 7 days for free, do a bunch of practices, and then peace out if you want. But Jen's going to drop a link for a free 7-day trial in the virtual workshop. And then we have coaching calls every month. So, you can try some practices, and then we have another call like this, and I can go through the practices with you. So we're really proud of that. There's 1,000 hours of workshop content. We've shot every workshop for the last 7 or 8 years, and virtually every workshop is on that platform. And we're bundling them in very specific bundles for like repair practices and nervous system expansion practices and grieving practices and couple sexual practices. And so we're really proud of the way that we've kind of reworked the content and the virtual workshop. And there's about 100 practices. There's 30 fucking breath practice, 30 different breath practices. So if you are feeling inspired to practice, I really want to invite you to check it out. Okay. And with that said, who are we going to next?
Caitlin.
Hello. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
So this question is probably pretty simple, but for me,
those are the
I'm curious.
hardest.
I'm a few months out of a breakup. I've been like taking a lot of intentional space of not interacting with men, and like just in the last week I've been like, oh, I feel like I'm opening, my flirtation is opening, and I'm like doing a lot with like self-trust and boundaries to not repeat patterns from my past. So big pattern from my past is that I am in my masculine a lot because I want to control, and I know it's a wounded thing, but I end up leading a lot of my relationships when really like I am a deeply feminine essence and want to be led by masculine. So my question is, I've recently encountered someone that is like insanely developed masculine energy and just felt myself like crack open immediately, and like I want that juicy connection with someone, but I don't know how long until something authentic like that will be available to me for partnership. And my question is like, how do I feel safe getting into my feminine more? Because I think the masculine thing is like the wounded way of feeling safe in connection. Like, how do I open up with men that like are on their own journey for like embodying the masculine in themselves, that aren't like fully developed? Like the dream is that I would encounter someone like that, but
Yeah. Well, thank you. First of all, that's a very common experience that I see in women. I ran a women's program for 5 years that we just completed, and it was a common theme of like, how do I relax that kind of knee-jerk masculine control safety response, which isn't your fault, right? I mean, this was developed early in your childhood. If you didn't have a trustable masculine in your childhood, of course you're going to develop your own shell. David would call it a shell, right? And so, just to be compassionate to yourself, like you did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. And great that you can feel your own essence is like, no, I want to relax this. I want to crack this crusty shell open and let the juice come through. Yeah. So just, some women or some men don't even get there, where they're aware, like, oh, I've got this and I've got this. So you're starting from a great place. And so a couple ways to go about this. You saw this guy, right? You were like, oh, fuck, like that's what I want. And this anybody can apply this. So part of a great way to approach that. Do you know him? Like, do you know him?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
we're
good,
in
good.
a authentic relating group together. So like
Oh, yeah,
we've had close connection and it's been like
yeah,
really
yeah,
delightful, but they're like primary partner and
yeah,
I'm just not
yeah.
in a space to even want to dive in that deeply. I'm just kind of
Right,
tiptoeing
but I
around.
wasn't going there. I wasn't going there.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you're in a community together, so you
Yes,
could go
yes.
to him and say, "Look, I know you're in a partnership. I'm not trying to hit on you. I'm not trying to be inappropriate, but you are the
No,
kind
and
of guy
I just want
that
to
you."
say too, they're
Yeah.
open and they're open for play like that. For me, I'm like curious about that and trying to decide for
But
myself,
again,
like,
I'm
do
not
I have
talking about any of
boundaries to
that.
like,
I'm
yeah,
wait,
yeah,
hold
yeah.
on.
I mean, just
Yeah, I'm not talking.
energetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's not. That wouldn't necessarily. I mean, whether or not that happens, I don't know. But the point of
Yeah.
this practice that I'm giving you, and it's interesting to see how I'm trying to lead you somewhere,
Ah.
and you know, right? I don't. I'm holding no charge, but I just want to point out, like, this is how it happens, right?
Yeah.
This is how it. This is because you asked, how do I relax my masculine?
Hmm.
I'd be like, just trust where I'm trying to take you in this moment for a second.
Yeah.
Um, um, so you go to him and you say, hey, listen, like, I'm not trying to hit on you. There's nothing going on here. Like, I really, but you are the kind of man I want to attract. Would you tell me what you would need to see from me,
Mm,
in my body, in my life, in my, in my, the way that like, what would you need to see in me that would make
mm,
me really valuable to you as a partner?
yeah. Yeah.
And it's an edgy fucking practice, but if you're in the authentic world, you guys are doing authentic communication practices. And if he's generous, and it seems like since he's in this work, I mean, Kendra, my teaching partner, is one of the creators of that, so I know that world very well.
Mm,
And you listen to like what he says, like, okay, I would need to feel you talk slower, or I would
mm,
need to feel you like just even more messy, or I would need to feel you like whatever he would say. And that is a really beautiful, very courageous practice of like, what is it that I need to cultivate in myself so that a person like that, and it works the opposite, men can do this for a woman they're attracted to.
yeah.
And you go, that's your list of things to work with. Some of them
Yeah.
you might know, but some of them might surprise you. And so that's one way to do it, to really feel like, and I know this is a touchy topic, but I think it's important to just say for everybody who's looking for a really deep relating, what is valuable, like just like you identified the kind of man that you would want. Anybody can do this. The kind of person that I want to be in deep relating with, what would be ultimately valuable to them?
Mm, mm-hmm.
We tend to let ourselves off the hook in relationship and just think like, well, I'm so fucking great that, they should, like, we're entitled for their,
Mm,
never ending devotion and attention. No, we're not. Like, we're either giving them something that is truly valuable to them. Otherwise they'd have another partner. We're at this place now in the history of relating where we don't need to be married. We don't need to have kids to work the farm. This is new. This is like the last 50, 100 years. This is new. So now, what is valuable to the kind of man that you want? And then that's the way you go into your practice. Like, would it be, I'm just using this, like, letting him lead me someplace without me clenching? Would it
yeah.
be messiness? Would it be, just being able to dissolve into surrender? Would it be, whatever it is? And maybe you make a list of what you could think would be most valuable, and then you cultivate those skills. Like you're learning a new art, like you're learning to paint, or you're learning to, and this is true. Again, I want to broaden this for anybody thinking about a partner. What would be so valuable to this dream partner? And I'm going to cultivate that. And the worst thing that happens is that you develop more breadth and range. The worst thing that happens is that you become more of a practitioner and an artist. But then we magnetize from a different place, right? We magnetize from a different place. We magnetize, like at the beginning of our talk, you were saying, like, I've kind of, like, you lifted your heart. You were like, I've opened my heart to, right? If you magnetize from there, right? That's a different person that you're going to attract, a different experience you're going to have. So does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does. I guess the one other piece of it is just when interacting with other men that might not be that developed, like how can I be practicing getting into my feminine, knowing that I might not be met in those ways?
Yeah, that's great. And a lot of women, like on dates or, you know, practice parties or whatever it is that's happening. I always suggest, and this is true for all of us, right? So let's say you have this list of what would be most valuable for the partner, your dream partner, and you go on a date. Practice one of them. Like, consciously practice one of them. Like, practice being more messy on the date. Practice cultivating the skills that you want to, and then pay attention to how it impacts the person you're on a date with. So you go on a date, rather than looking, you're actually like bringing some new aspect of yourself that you want to cultivate and strengthen, you know, in an arena that, you know, that gives you space to do that. And of course, being sensitive to their heart. You know, if you're on a date with somebody who is not your type, and you start to bring like deep, open-hearted feminine energy, they might lose their shit. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of men just don't know what to do with that. So you might have to be aware of that. But yeah, you can just say to the, you know, if you can be really honest, you could say, hey, you know, like, this is just more casual, but I'm working on being more open. I'm working on being more messy. I'm working on da 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 da. And you kind of let them know, if it feels wrong at any time, just let me know. And then that way you're in a kind of a very clear practice container that they're stepping into consciously as well.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming along. What a great group. I really, really, really appreciate your questions. Hope it's been helpful for you. And you know, we'll do this again in a couple of months. I will also say that we're launching our men's program, EMLT, in a couple of weeks. So those of you who are interested in getting into a very deep men's container and going deeper into the men's work, let us know. Just send us a message, and look for EMLT, which will launch in January, to start enrolling in a couple of weeks. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.